Israeli intelligence said Iran was close. American intelligence said Iran was close. The IAEA said they were close. President Trump said during the campaign, I'm not going to let this happen. Iran get a nuclear weapon. And he takes the appropriate action. And it seems to be hugely successful. The precision, even the deception that was part of this plan that pulled this off. And you got people just criticizing that. Like, that makes no sense to me. The world's better with Iran not having a nuclear weapon, for goodness sake.
You know, in Congress, you have people like AOC, you have people like Jasmine Crockett, and then you have people like Jim Jordan. And yes, he's a Republican from the state of Ohio, represents the 4th District, but he's also the chairman of the Judiciary. And so I think this is a great opportunity to talk to him about what's it really like on Capitol Hill right now. You've seen Jim Jordan a lot. He's a very outspoken supporter of the president. But also he dispels some of the myths maybe that we have about DC. Before I go any further, don't forget to hit subscribe, whether you're at Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Just click subscribe. We always want you to have that episode right there waiting for you every time we drop one. And we've got an amazing catalog of past shows as well. Incredible catalog that we'd encourage you to check out. So just hit subscribe. Thank you very much. Congressman Jim Jordan is our guest next. Congressman, welcome. It is
good to be with you.
Great to meet you virtually.
Yeah, same here.
There's a lot going on. And it's amazing to me how much is taking place in Washington, D.C. We've seen, particularly in contrast to the previous administration, where it felt like really nothing was happening except embarrassing stuff. And now it's just constant.
Yeah.
How would you describe sort of that environment on Capitol Hill under this administration?
Well, I think it's driven by the president. The president is a man of action, as you know. The president is more than maybe any politician in our lifetimes is a guy who does what he said he was going to do. So he's intense. I always tell, when I'm out on the stump, I always tell audiences, the one thing I so appreciate about President Trump, and I imagine you're the same way, is he hates to lose. He thinks like an athlete. He hates to lose, and that is a good quality. That's an American quality. Yeah. And when you have that attitude, you're aggressive, you're intense, and you're a person of action. And so you see that with what he's done on the border. You see that with the position he took relative to Iran and helping our best ally Israel, and issue after issue. And you see it with the focus on trying to get this reconciliation package across the finish line as well. So that's just who the president is. And I think that leadership kind of permeates and spreads and has an impact on the entire town and on Capitol Hill.
You certainly hear it from Republicans that they are very, very confident that this big, beautiful bill is going to make it across the finish line. What has to happen for that to be the case?
Well, I do think it will happen. And I tell people all the time, look, I wish it cut more spending too, but we got a small majority both in the House and the Senate. We got to work together and get something across the finish line. But I think it's a good bill. And frankly, I tell groups all the time, it's a good bill because the Democrats hate it, right? Mm-hmm. It's a good bill because the left despises it. And the reason they don't like it is because this legislation actually empowers people. It empowers families, not government. And the left doesn't want that. They don't want you and I and the families who are watching. And they don't want them empowered. This bill cuts taxes, lets moms and dads keep more of their money, chase after their goals and dreams. This bill says to able-bodied people who are getting your tax money in our welfare system, guess what? You're going to have to go work. That's a good thing for taxpayers. It treats them with respect. It's a good thing for our economy. Maybe most importantly, it's a good thing for them.
Exactly.
It's going to teach them what they need. This bill says we're going to make sure we have resources to keep our borders secure. And this bill actually now gives parents school choice via the tax code. That's totally empowering parents, totally empowering families. So I think it's a good bill. Any one of those things in a single bill we would vote for, but you put them together, somehow there's a problem. No, I still, look, I think it's a good package. It's good because the left doesn't like it. Let's just get it done.
Yeah. And people seem to be very confident that will be the case. So on the one hand, we've looked at, I said this morning to someone, I felt like the world got safer when Iran's nukes got bombed. Yeah. But then I woke up the other day, and in New York, they have nominated a they call him a Democrat socialist. He's basically a Marxist or a communist for mayor of the largest city in America, which makes me pretty nervous. I realize it's one city, but it is a consequential city. There are 8.8 million plus people who live in that city. I can't believe that this happened. It feels like the wool has been pulled over their eyes. What do you make of that development and what it might mean for the Democrat Party?
Yeah, I mean, that's today's left. Today's left embraces all kinds of crazy things, and this is sort of a manifestation of that. I always say not all Democrats are crazy, but the left that controls their party is. And you can go issue by issue. I mean, it's crazy to defund the police. It's crazy not to have a border. It's crazy to say men should compete against women in sports. It's crazy to say, oh, President Trump caused the riots in LA because he sent in people to stop the riots in LA. I mean, you can go position after position. The left always gets it wrong, always gets it backwards, always takes the crazy position. I mean, one of my favorites, I mean, this is, it's almost funny if it wasn't so serious, but during the Biden administration, I mean, think about this. It is crazy to let a Chinese spy balloon fly clear across the country and then shoot it down. I mean, I'm just a country boy from Ohio. I think I'd have shot it down before it went across the country. I know President Trump would have. So every position they take is crazy. And now we have a left-wing socialist radical who just won the Democrat nomination for mayor of our largest city and a great American city. But that's today's left. Now, the good news is the majority of the population, the country, has what President Trump calls, we're the party of common sense. The majority of the country has common sense. And they said on November 5th, time out on all the craziness. We're putting President Trump back in the White House and Republicans in control of Congress.
And it's remarkable because the response to that has been an exacerbation, like a fanning of the flames on the left. And some of that we've seen in an area of your expertise, and that is these judicial activists, these judges that put these nationwide injunctions on some of the things the president is doing. How do we stop individual judges from making decisions that affect the entire country?
Yeah, you do three things. In Congress, we have a constitutional duty to do oversight. We held a hearing on this. We had former Speaker Gingrich come in and talk about how this is a relatively recent phenomena. You highlight how wrong it is. You talk about the fact that even Justice Kagan on the United States Supreme Court has said this shouldn't happen, where these judges can issue these injunctions that apply around the country. You do legislation, which we passed out of our committee like 3 months ago. It's now been passed out of the House. It sits in the United States Senate. That legislation says if one of these 677 federal district judges issues an injunction, it only applies to the parties in the case in that respective jurisdiction. It does not apply nationwide, which is, again, just good common sense. And then third, we had a hearing on this yesterday in our committee. You look at their budget. And frankly, you want to make sure that there's enough resources to protect the safety of our judges around the country. So security is important. But maybe they don't need 3-4 clerks. Maybe they don't need all the staff they got. And you're not going to get all that if you're going to continue to act like you're the president of the United States, not President Trump, who actually put his name on a ballot, ran for the job, and 77 million people supported him. So I think you use all three of those levers to change this, and that's what we're doing.
All right. Bear with me for a second. We all grew up watching Schoolhouse Rock, and I'm just a bill on Capitol Hill. But so this legislation that you passed, which sounds really smart and really commonsensical, that sits now in the Senate. Those words, it now sits in the Senate. That phrase drives me nuts. It's like nails on a chalkboard. It's like, okay, so how long will it sit in the Senate? And what is the Senate doing with it? Like, why can't they just pass it?
Yeah, not much now. And my guess is they won't pass it because it's, the Senate rules are they need 60 votes. So you're going to need 7 Democrats to go along with the Republicans to get that into law. Now, I would remind those Democrat senators over there that Justice Kagan and other Democrats have expressed concern about a single judge in Timbuktu of, California, issuing an injunction that applies to the entire country. It's happened to Democrat presidents as well. It just seems to be disproportionately happening to President Trump. So maybe there's a few Democrats who will, do the right thing and support the legislation, but that hasn't happened thus far.
You talk about the Democrats versus Republicans, and it seems to me, and everything seems heightened right now in this second Trump administration, but can you dispel the notion, or do you underscore the notion that the vitriol, the words that come out of people's mouths on Capitol Hill, obviously they're doing it for cameras. They've got their audiences in mind. They're doing it for fundraising. I get that. Does anyone get along up there across the parties?
Yeah, actually, we do. And I try to get along with all of them. I disagree with a bunch of them. I think you're right. I think we have way too much of this sort of manufactured
Performative,
attention.
right?
Yeah, right. That people want to do. Like I always just tell my colleagues, just particularly my Republican, just do your job. You do your job, you get plenty of attention if you're doing your job right. If you're focusing, you're doing your homework, you're prepared for committee hearings, you're prepared. Just do your job. There's plenty of opportunities to get the attention that you sort of need in public life when you're going to go back and run for re-election, all that thing. But just focus on your job. I guess I learned this in sports. Like just go do your job. The best way to help your team is to go do what you got to do. My sport was wrestling. The best way to help your team is to go win your match, for goodness sake, and focus on that. And you don't need all the other stuff. So, yeah, I see that. But I do get along with some of the Democrats, and particularly when it comes to civil liberties, because there's some Democrats who agree with us on the Fourth Amendment, protecting your privacy, First Amendment, when they were going after, we had these big tech companies colluding with the Biden administration to limit your right to talk, the most fundamental liberty we have under the First Amendment. You get your right to practice your faith, your right to assemble, your right to petition the government, free press, free speech. The most important one is your right to talk. Because if you can't speak, you can't practice your faith, share your faith, petition your government, you don't have a free press. I mean, that's what they went after. So we worked with Democrats on some of those. And I wish we had more of that. We're trying to, the big FISA debates coming up for reauthorization on this 702 program. We lost the amendment to require a warrant before the government can go search this giant database. We lost it 212 to 212, and it was a bipartisan on both sides. So we're going to work with some Democrats and try to get that over the hill there and make sure it passes.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Got to touch on anti-Semitism. It's a growing issue across the world, but specifically surely here in America. Again, it's one of those. It's so big, it's so insipid, it's got tentacles throughout academia, all kinds of places. Is there agreement on the Hill that this is truly a problem and it's a threat to a lot of people in our country?
Yeah, I think there is. The vast majority of Democrats and certainly the vast majority of Republicans understand how wrong and evil this is. Think about the last 3 months. You had the attack, the arson attack on Governor Shapiro's home. You had the two Israeli embassy people who were killed here in D.C. You had the Colorado situation. Then we had one of our colleagues, Max Miller, from our state, Ohio, on a sort of a road rage incident back in Ohio a week ago. So that's just in the last 3 months. And then, of course, you have some people's reaction to us helping our best friend, our best ally, Israel. Israeli intelligence said Iran was close. American intelligence said Iran was close. The IAEA said they were close. President Trump said during the campaign, I'm not going to let this happen, Iran get a nuclear weapon. And he takes the appropriate action. And it seems to be hugely successful. The precision, even the deception that was part of this plan that pulled this off. And you got people just criticizing that like that makes no sense to me. The world's better with Iran not having a nuclear weapon, for goodness sake. So, the anti-Semitism and how it spills over into policy implications as well, I think is just wrong and it's terrible. The more we talk about stopping it, I think that's going to help us.
And this is where I get confused about like what's going on in New York City. It's got the highest, I think, concentration of Jews in the country, and then they voted for this guy who's an anti-Semite. I'm perplexed. I'm baffled by this. And again, you kind of see it. I'm sitting here based in Minnesota, and we certainly have our share of anti-Semitism here. But you see it also in the UK. You see it in other countries happening, and I am. It puts a little chill down my spine that this stuff actually goes on, this ridiculous hatred that really, if you could shed it, it wouldn't affect you. Like, I don't understand what's productive about hating these people. So I just wonder what the answers are. You can't legislate against hate, right? You can't. I mean, people are going to hate. They're going to hate.
Yeah, you just got to speak out against it. I think you're right, Michele. I think next to the state of Israel, the largest concentration of Jewish individuals are in New York City. I got asked a question on radio a couple days ago. This action that we took in taking out Iran's nuclear capability, was that driven? Was that a moral thing with Israel? Was it a Was it a religious thing? And I said to the host, I said, I think it's all the above. There's this special bond between our country and the Jewish state. It's the Judeo-Christian ethic. It's religious. It's moral. It's strategic. It's all of that. And we need to understand that. And also part of that is condemning any anti-Semitic stuff going on. It's just wrong. It's terrible. So I think there's this special. We've had the privilege, my wife and I, we've been to Israel 6 times. We were there back in February. Amazing place, amazing people. The miracle that is that country and the bond that our country has with Truman in 48 saying the first one to recognize the state of Israel, and then what they went through in 67, 73, 2 years ago, October 7th. Amazing place, amazing people. And we should always remember that when we're thinking about how this all has unfolded here in the last week.
I didn't know you'd been to Israel 6 times, and that's remarkable. I'm still trying to get there for the first time, and
You should
think,
go.
yeah,
You'll
I
love
know.
it. You should go.
I really do want to, Congressman. And I just one of the theories that I've heard about this hatred toward us being the great Satan, Israel being the small Satan, however you want to define it, is almost, look, Israel is so entrepreneurial, so innovative, so successful, so driven by creativity, prosperity. So is America. That seems to be out of step with what all the haters believe life should be about. And I've heard that that's what these two countries really have in common, that is so hated by the enemy. What do you make of that theory?
No, I think you're exactly right. I think it's this mindset that, it's the American mindset. It's the mindset of the Jewish people. It's like you set a goal, you work hard, you accomplish good things. That's the American dream. It's the dream of this. I mean, it's like, I think they don't like what the West offers, and as far as freedom and free debate and so many things that the radicals and the terrorist state of Iran, the leaders there, hate. Now, I'm not saying all the people. I think there's a lot of people in Iran who would share the same mindset that you and I have, but the leadership certainly doesn't. It's about power, control, and hatred, which is so wrong. So I think that's exactly right. The differences between that and the way these radicals that run Iran, how they think.
All right, let's get to China before we forget. All of what's going on in the Middle East, and then Russia and Ukraine has sort of taken the media spotlight away from China a little bit. And you can't ever take your eye off China. And I'm fascinated by this issue because it feels like they are really sly in their ways of permeating this country. They have bought farmland near some of our military bases. They have made it so that everyone wants to manufacture there because they manufacture so cheaply. So we've become reliant on this country. They're expanding into Africa. This to me is such a massive problem. What is the conversation like, even if it's not in hearings, or what is the conversation like on the Hill as it pertains to China?
Yeah, I think number one, thank the good Lord that President Trump's in the White House and is now the commander in chief, and not Joe Biden in the weakness that Joe Biden projected. I think that's helpful. Thankful that President Trump understands long-term how trade needs to change, how we need to bring more things back here and manufacture them and produce them here, whether it's pharmaceuticals, certain key, steel and manufacturing and critical minerals and those kind of things. So I think that's all part of it. I feel like President Trump is beginning to move us in the right direction, and God bless him for doing it, where we didn't have that before. And then I think our military understands, our military leadership, and of course the commander in chief understands that we have to be prepared and make sure our military stays strong when you think about a country of over 1 billion people and what they are trying to accomplish, as you point out, around the world on different continents, whether it's Africa, other parts of Asia. I think all that is part of it. And I believe we have a president who understands that and is taking the action and starting to take the actions that we need to do. Here on Capitol Hill, we have a China task force chaired by Congressman Molinar from the state of Michigan that is working on some of these, focusing on some of these issues as well.
It's good to know, because it's a little bit a little bit scary. We'll finish with this because we're celebrating again this month the birthday of Title IX, and you referred to it earlier as something that the left is okay with biological males competing against females. Look, I covered sports for 3 decades. I can see the very, very, very critical differences between male and female, and these activists who come out and say, oh, we don't have enough research yet, or if they just take enough, puberty blockers, or if they whatever. A male will never have a uterus. Sorry, it's and everything that goes along with it. Yeah. So we are different, and I this gender ideology that now is the grievance du jour. And poor us, and we deserve to compete where we want to compete. This goes squarely against Title IX. It is taking away opportunities from girls. And the people keep saying, the proponents keep saying, oh, this is rare. It doesn't happen that often. Really?
Yeah, again, it just makes no common sense. And like the president says, just common sense, basic stuff. I mean, this is ridiculous. People know it. I mean, we had four kids. All our kids were athletes. Our boys wrestled. They wrestled against guys. That's the way it's supposed to be. And our daughters. Our one daughter was a good distance runner when she was in high school, and the other daughter played golf. And Jessie can beat me in golf, but she couldn't beat the best boys in golf.
Exactly. That's the point.
That's the way it goes.
Yes.
So it's like it makes no sense, and people get it. And you're probably like me. I love sports. I love the what it teaches you about just having a goal, working hard, the discipline, and all the things that you learn from it, and you try then to apply. We all fall a little short, but you try to apply that in your life in general. So yeah, it just makes no sense what we're saying. Well, in your state, what was the softball? Right?
Softball champions, the state champions had a biological male pitching for them, shutout after shutout. And then they celebrated a championship, and some people celebrated right along with them, while the others were like, what is wrong with this picture? It's insanity. I think this is going to go down in the history books as one of the strangest moments in human history of this this fiction that it's really that they're just the same. There's no advantage. Anyway, there's so much we could talk about, and I really enjoy talking to you. And
you too.
I wish Godspeed on all of the positive legislation that needs to happen.
Yeah, same to you, and thanks for all the good work you're doing. We really appreciate that.
I appreciate you. I always end the podcast saying, be brave, do good. That's what Congress people try to do. Let's follow their lead. I'm Michele Tafoya. We'll see you next time. Hey, you can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.